Hi, and welcome to this video where we'll introduce the trigonometric functions. So let's go to the file, and first we need to define the unit circle. You can see it here. This is a circle that is placed on a coordinate system in x-axis and y-axis. The center of the circle is placed at the origin. This is point 0, 0. And the radius of the circle is 1 unit. This is why it's called the unit circle. All the points on the circumference of the circle have some x-coordinate and y-coordinate. We can easily find the coordinates of the intersection points with the axis. This point here has x equals 1 and y equals 0. This point is 0, 1. This one here is x equals minus 1 and y equals 0. And this one has 0 and minus 1. As we saw before, any value can be described on the circle with a point. On a unit circle, we will have coordinates to each of the points. For example, if this is angle or value alpha, described as this point M, we have x coordinate and we have a y coordinate of M. To take another value like beta, described as this point N, we have x and we have y of n. We can go now to define the trigonometric functions. We define sine and cosine of the value. So each number, theta, is described on the unit circle as a point. This is what we saw just now. We define sine of theta as the y-coordinate of M and cosine of theta as the x-coordinate of M. So here in this drawing, if this is the value angle theta, described as point M with x and y, the y of theta, which is this value or this blue line, this is sine of theta, and the x-coordinate, which is this green line, is cosine of theta. Okay, the coordinates are cosine theta and sine theta. Let's look at some values of sine and cosine. We know the coordinates of these values, so we can find them. So, what is sine 0 and cosine 0? We go to 0 degrees, described as this point. This is for 0 degrees. The sine of 0 is the y-coordinate, and cosine 0 is the x-coordinate of this point. This point is the point 1, 0. So sine of 0 is 0 and cosine 0 is 1. Let's go to another point, 90 degrees. What is sine 90 and cosine 90? We are talking about this point for 90 degrees. This point, as we saw before, is 0, 1. So sine 90 is the y-coordinate 1, and cosine 90 is the x-coordinate 0. 180 degrees is represented here. This is the point that describes 180 degrees. coordinates are -1 is x and 0 is y. So sine 180 is 0 and cosine 180 is -1. For 270, we go to this point, which has 0 as x and -1 is y. So sine 270 is -1, the y coordinate, and cosine of 270 is 0. That's the x coordinate. For 360, we go back to this point, the same point as 0 degrees, and we will have the same sine and cosine. Let's look at the sine and cosine of these values only in radians. These are the same values, and it is very useful to know these sine and cosine values by heart. See, look at them for a while and see that you understand. What about other values, like sine of 12 degrees or cosine of 4.5 radians? For these values, we will have to use calculator. But first, we will have to set the calculator to work in the right measure, degrees or radians. Here's how you do it in Casio. Let's look at some examples of sine and cosine values and their meaning on a unit circle. Make sure that you know how to get them in your calculators. So the first example is for 34 degrees. These are the values of sine and cosine, and let's see them on the unit circle. 34 degrees is something like this one. Matching point is M. It has some x coordinate and y coordinate. According to the definition, sine 34 is the y coordinate. So this is 0.5592. Makes sense because this is 1. It's a unit circle. The cosine of 34 is the x coordinate. It's here. This is 0.892, and this is a cosine. Another example is for 115. 115 degrees is somewhere around here. This is around 115. Again, x coordinate and y coordinate. The y coordinate is the sine. This is 0.9063. And the x coordinate is cosine. Notice that here cosine is negative. Cosine and sine can be negative. Next example is for a radian. 3.8. We have sine and cosine of 3.8 here. And on the unit circle, we can take 3.8 is around here. This is around 3.8 radians. We have x coordinate and y coordinate. The sine is the y coordinate. It's around here. Negative 0.6118. And cosine is the x coordinate, which is here, negative 0.791. Here, both the values of sine and cosine are negative. Let's summarize the direction of sine alpha and cosine alpha all around the circle. So sine alpha is the y coordinate of the point that match alpha. Y is positive here, and here in the first two quadrants, and negative in the third and fourth quadrants. This is where y is negative. As for cosine, cosine is the x coordinate, so it is positive here and here on the right side, and negative here and here. Here's a summary of sine and cosine together, and that leads us to a type of questions that you might be asked in the quiz. True or false? Sine 15 is a positive number. Is it true or false? Without calculator, we know that 15 is somewhere here in the first quadrant. This is around 15. We know that here the y coordinate is positive, so sine 15 must be a positive number, and this is true. What about cosine of 222? Is it also a positive number? We know that 222 is around here. This is between 180 and 270. Here, the cosine is the x coordinate. This is cosine 222. And we can see that this must be a negative number. So this must be false. In the next video, we will talk about the value of sine and cosine for some special values and the connection between them. I hope to see you there.